Hey, hello, Insta fam. Hello, all of my change fam. My Facebook, my YouTube, my Periscope, my Insta fam. Welcome back to another Thursday night episode of Change Talk. And if we have not met before, hopefully we have. Hopefully you've been here before, but if not, my name's Tiffany Jenkins, and the music is off, so I can actually take that banner off. Um, my name is Tiffany Jenkins. I am the host for tonight's show. I'm also the founder and therapist at Awakening Change Counseling Services LLC in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I am very happy to have all of you guys with me across multiple platforms. If this happens to be, hey, see, somebody already knows what to do. If you're coming in and you're joining me, please wave, say hi. Let me know that you are in the building or the virtual building, that is. I'm going to try to do something so that I can actually see who's joining me from Facebook. Let's see if that happens. You guys bear with me one second. Because I want to see. I want to see you guys. There we go. All right. Hopefully I can see you guys as you join in. And my mama's here. Hello, mother. If you come in, ooh, I like that one. I'm looking at Insta. I got another question coming in. Denise, if I'm gonna get to that. That's a juicy one. Hey Kersha, welcome. Hey family. Tonight's topic is going to be up to you, all of you guys, to decide. I do have some questions that were submitted before the show, and so I'm gonna read those. But if you have questions, so the whole premise of tonight's show is counselor Q&A. So questions that you have about therapy, about what therapy is, about, how to find a therapist. Some of the questions that I got were about specific interventions and how you choose a therapist and all that other kind of stuff. So tonight I'm going to try and be a resource for all of your questions about therapy and what therapy is and isn't. I have to preface this by saying all of these things are based on my practice as a therapist. So I can't guarantee you. There are some things that are kind of universal. There are some things that we're trained on. There's some things that we're trained on across the board. But I just want to kind of preface tonight's show by saying that all of these opinions that you're going to hear are 100% mine. Okay. So, my clients have told me that I'm a little bit different than some other therapists that they've worked with, and apparently that works for them. So, I'm going to try to do that. You know what? Because I have these questions written down, I'm going to start with Denise's question from Instagram. Do you ever suggest clients stop counseling to implement strategies? After 8 years, of off and on therapy, I decided I had to process with what I learned and experienced. So here's the thing. When it comes to how much time you spend in therapy, one size doesn't fit all. Now we've got some evidence-based practices and I'll say guidelines that tell us that, there are brief interventions that can be effective for some conditions, and that those conditions resolve between 8 to 12 sessions. You've got some models that are traditional inpatient, which may be 30 days, short term inpatient. Then you have IOP, which is intensive outpatient, which is, 12 to 16 weeks. And, it steps down from there. But for me, one size does not fit all. And especially if you're processing things that have been long term, I have some folks who just like that accountability. Now, they're not coming to see me every week after 2 years, but they like that accountability. They like that safe space to check in, because that's really what going to therapy should be. It should be a safe space for you to process thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have some skills and some tools that you've gained from your therapist. I would hope that you've got some stuff that's working for you. Um, but everybody's kind of personality is different, and I'm not one of those folks who put a hard and fast rule on how much time folks should spend in therapy. Now, your insurance company may disagree with me, but in most cases it really is not one size fits all. um, there's actual research that shows us that the greatest indicator of success in therapy is actually the relationship between the clinician and the client. So it really just depends on what's going on in your sessions, and how you're feeling. So, but great question. Thank you. If you guys, again, have any questions while we're going through tonight's show, I have a couple here that were already submitted. Feel free to drop them in the chat, and then I will get to them as we go through. But if you're here and you haven't said hi to me already, just wave. Just send me a hey. Let me know you're here. Let me know what's going on. Let's see. Okay. So, one of the questions that I got, which I thought was very interesting, is where do you start in therapy with an adult who has unresolved childhood trauma and would like to deal with it, but not relive it? Hey, Selena, how are you? Um, where do you start in therapy with an adult who has unresolved childhood trauma and would like to deal with it but not relive it? The short answer to that is wherever they want to start. There is no place where you have to jump in and start unpacking and digging up all of this nastiness. What I like to do with the folks that I'm working with is I start with making sure you have a solid self-care plan in place. Because here's the thing, if you don't have the resources to deal with your everyday life, you don't have the resources to dig up all of the dirtiness and nastiness of your past. So the short answer to that is wherever the client wants to start. Now, if I'm working with someone who's got a solid self-care plan, but they're starting to realize that there are some patterns from their childhood that keep repeating themselves, or they're even starting to have nightmares or flashbacks about something that happened to them before, we start with where they are. We're gonna start with giving them the tools necessary to just navigate life on life's terms first, and then we can go backwards. Now, I'm a certified trauma professional, certified clinical trauma professional. That's what 4 of those little letters behind my name mean. And so, as such, I can tell you that at the heart of trauma counseling for me and trauma therapy for me, the first thing I want to do is help someone feel safe. And that means I don't have to know all of the nasty sordid details about what happened to you. I just need you to know that this is a safe space. A little bit more difficult virtually, because virtual spaces aren't really you don't really get the same vibe, but I do my best to communicate to my folks that the time that they spend with me is safe, and it's our time, and whatever they say with me stays with me. They can feel free to leave as little or as much as makes them feel comfortable. And then over time, eventually what happens is when they feel that sense of safety, they start unpacking a little bit more and a little bit more. Do I accept insurance? Yes, I do, but I'm full. So I am in network with Horizon, Aetna, United Healthcare, and Cigna, and I feel like there's somebody else. But at the current time, my schedule is completely full. I'm unable to accept any new folks. But what I always say is that if you are watching, whether you're on Insta or Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, and you're having trouble finding a therapist, send me an email. Let me put the banner up with the website. Go to the website, fill out a contact form, and I will do my absolute best to help you connect with someone who is in your area, who is in network with your insurance, who can help you out. I'm not the only therapist, right? I'd like to think that I'm a pretty good therapist. My clients seem to like me. And I've been doing this for a while now, but I do know that I'm also not for everybody. And so I'm going to do my best to help you connect with the therapist that's right for you. All right. Let's check Insta. Okay. Um, let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, Glenny. Welcome. Um, okay, good. What's the youngest age group do you begin therapy? So that's for me, um, my ideal client is going to be over the age of 18. I've worked with teenagers before. It's not my preference because I live with three of them. And so I have enough of teenagers on a regular basis. But as soon as a child has language and they can tell you what's going on, that something's not right, there are therapists that are available to work with them and help them regulate their emotions appropriately. It just depends on what's going on with them. I have a colleague of mine. Her name is Colleen, and she loves working with little people. And her office looks like just a huge playland. I love going and having lunch with her when the world is actually open. And that's her thing. She's seen children, I want to say, as small as 3 or 4 that have something called selective mutism, and that's what she works with. So depending on what the need is, you can, as soon as a child has language, you can really start working with them. There's a therapist for every bracket. And there are even specializations. So there are some folks who have taken additional training, just like I took some additional training on trauma. There are folks who have taken additional training to work with it, the youngers. I call them the littles, the younger folks. There's teen and adolescent tracks. There are even folks who specialize in gerontological, that was a mouthful, psychology, who work specifically with our seniors, because there are unique issues at every age and phase of life. I should hope you like me. You're my mother. Um, See, guys, this is what happened when your mom joins the feed. It can get interesting. Let's see. My Insta folks aren't talking to me, but my Facebook folks are. Okay. I think I've answered all of my Facebook people's questions, but keep putting them in the chat and I will get to them. One of the other questions that was sent in was, what are the ways to help a client encourage his or her spouse while engaging in couples counseling? Listen. Just listen. You're welcome. Listen. She says she likes me too. The only thing that, not the only thing, the best advice that I give to couples is that you have to learn to speak your spouse's love language. There was a book some years ago. His name, Chapman. His name is falling out of my head, but the book is called The 5 Love Languages. And I use that book a lot in my work with couples for a number of reasons. It's also really good with parent-child issues. If you want to communicate better with your parent or your child, learning that person's love language is going to be really important, because it's not just about the way that they give and receive love. It's also about the way they communicate. So you're going to find that someone who is more of an acts of service person, their language is going to be more concrete. It's going to kind of be straight and to the point. And sometimes that can be misperceived as people being like direct and not really caring and all of that. But that's not it. It's just that's their language. Their language is just get it done versus someone whose love language is thank you, Gary Chapman. I knew his name was Chapman. I could not think of his first name. Someone whose love language is words of affirmation is going to use more flowery language, and they're going to, you know, probably take the long route to get to whatever point it is that they're talking about, because that's just the way that they talk. So the most important thing that couples can do to just encourage each other is to learn the other one's love language. Don't take for granted, no matter how long you've been married, that you kind of know that. You've got to check in and make sure that you are giving your spouse love in the way they receive it. As a personal example, my husband is a giver, but you can't really give him anything. He doesn't like receiving gifts. He likes giving gifts, right? So for him, it's more I like to cook dinner, and if I know I'm out at the store and he was saying that he wanted donuts, I might pick up donuts. That's more his speed. But the big gifts, that's him all day, every day, right? So it's if I tried to kind of outbuy him, I would be frustrated because I wouldn't get the response that I wanted. He wouldn't really be happy because that's not his thing. And so we'd both kind of be just kind of at each other like, why can't you just, get it? So the biggest thing that you can give to your spouse, even if you're not in counseling, just learn how to communicate. And the awesome thing is if you go on the website, 5lovelanguages.com, there's a free quiz that you can take, right? You and your partner. There's also one for parent and child. So you can go right on the website and take it, and it gives you your profile right there. So you don't have to guess it. And then you get the book and you learn more about those languages and what they mean and how they manifest themselves. And it's very interesting to me to watch how communication between couples improves drastically the more we start framing our conversations through the lens of those love languages. So I think that's the best thing. Another question was, what are some methods to help you when you're having an anxiety attack? So when you're having a panic attack, panic attacks rather, are different for different people. But if you are having that physical sensation, heart racing, palms are sweaty, you're having trouble catching your breath, one of the easiest things you can do is something that we actually talked about in last week's show, progressive muscle relaxation. And we talked about this a little bit last week in terms of your body's stress response, but it's also appropriate here because a panic attack is really just your body being thrown. There's some trigger. It throws your body into that stress response. And so your brain thinks that it only has three choices: fight, run, or freeze, when that's not really true. And that's kind of what happens when you have a panic attack. Your brain thinks that it's only limited to those three options. And so most of us in a panic attack, we panic, right? So we all of the stress hormones course through our body, and we get overwhelmed, and it becomes a lot, right? It becomes very, very overwhelming. So what you do is you get back. The clinical way of saying it is you get back into your body. So you get out of your head and into your body. You focus on just relaxing your muscles, right? That's it. You don't do a whole bunch of other stuff. You just work on relaxing your muscles. Well, how do you do that if you're in a panic attack? You squeeze them as tight as you can and you relax. And what you'll notice is the more relaxed you get, the more your heart rate starts to calm down, the more your heart rate starts to calm down. Your breathing starts to get deeper. That's the other thing. When you're in a panic attack, it's like this, like you're breathing very, very shallow, which means that your body is not getting all of the oxygen that it needs. So just doing a simple thing of tensing and relaxing your muscles, right? That's one. And making sure that you are breathing from your diaphragm. What does that mean? When you inhale, fill your whole belly with air, right? You want to kind of act like you've got a beer belly, right? You want to stretch your belly out as far as you can, filling it with air, not your chest, because that's shallow breathing. You want to start with your belly and fill that up as far as you can with air and hold it and then relax. Try breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. That oxygen hits all of your cells. It's kind of like it's if you're in an anxiety attack, it's kind of the chill pill your body needs to just kind of help you kind of calm down. But oxygen is something that we need to survive. So you're actually giving, it's almost like giving your body superfood, right? Water and oxygen are kind of our body superfoods. And when you can do that, again, you come out of that fight, flight, freeze response, and your logic center of your brain comes back online. So you can actually think logically. So then you can actually assess, are you in any real danger? Right now, it's important for you to understand that anxiety in and of itself is not a bad thing. If a bear walked into the room where you are right now, I need you to panic. I don't need you to figure out if he's a North American brown bear or a North American black bear or a grizzly. I don't need you to play National Geographic. That's not what we need right now. We need to get to safety. And so when you're having a panic attack, what it really means is your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is alerting you that there is some danger, except in the case of anxiety, that danger is usually a perception and not reality. Okay. So we do other things. We have to work on changing our thoughts. We have to work on looking at what our anxiety triggers are. We have to look at, what are the experiences that led us on that train of thought. So we've got to do some other work, but immediately in the moment, the best thing that we can do is try to relax our muscles and breathe a little bit deeper. Okay. My granny is pregnant, suffers with anxiety. Any suggestions? So I hope that, okay. Yep. After you posted your question. So hopefully that helps, Glennie. The thing about being pregnant with anxiety is you're sending, when you're pregnant, you've already got a whole bunch of chemicals just kind of doing their own thing and going crazy. Stress sends more of those chemicals through your body, and it can actually have a heightened response. So she's going to have to be really mindful about monitoring her triggers, because she might find that her panic attacks are worse now that she's pregnant. So she's going to have to be a little bit more diligent in kind of just breathing, relaxing, all that kind of stuff. All right. Let's see. How do you approach grief counseling? The answer to this for me is very similar to one of the first questions about childhood trauma, right? The way that we start is just being present and building safety. So most people are familiar with the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, right? Where, first it's denial, and then throw that out the window. Just take it, ball it up, and kick it. That theory, first of all, was never meant to describe the grieving process. Kubler-Ross designed that model to talk about someone who was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Then some folks started seeing some similarities and started applying it to people who were grieving, but that's never where it was meant to be. Why? Because everybody grieves differently. Okay. If you get 3 people in a room who have lost a parent, one person may be very stoic and just very business oriented and get everything done and just let's get through the service, let's get through this, whatever. There may be somebody else who is falling to pieces, just can't handle it. And then you might have somebody else who's just kind of like somewhere in the middle, kind of like moving in like a daze or whatever. The reason for that is your grief response, one, is connected to the relationship that you had with the person, what that relationship meant to you, and what your available resources are. So I can't tell you when to grieve. I can't tell you when it starts, can't tell you when it finishes. All I can do is sit with you as your therapist and ask you kind of what's going on. What are you thinking right now? Let's talk through it. Giving voice to the feelings, whether they're, I don't understand why God did this, or I understand they're in a better place, or, it was so and so's fault, or whatever the case may be. Just getting that out sometimes can be very cathartic. And so what happens is just having that safe space again to share what you're feeling without any judgment of, well, you should have been over it by now. A friend of mine says all the time, grief has no expiration date. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to go through this, and in 6 months, everything's going to be back to normal. That's why, to me, the concept of bereavement days is ridiculous, because telling me I have 3 days or 5 days to get over the loss of a significant family member is just mind blowing. But that's just me. We as therapists, or even as not therapists, as people who support folks who are grieving, we hold space for whatever the person's emotions may be. If you want to cry, cry. You want to scream, scream. Just make sure you're eating and you're sleeping so that you're keeping your strength up and you have what you need in your tank, right? When it starts to get concerning is if the person is trying to harm themselves, or they are disconnecting to the point where it's harmful to them. And what I mean by that is not everybody is intentional with their self-harm. Sometimes it's they're just not eating. Their mind is foggy, so they're like doing like risky things. Well, then we want to sit with them and make sure they've got the supports that they need. But for the most part, we just sit with the person. We listen to them talk about what the deceased person meant to them, the impact it made on their lives. And eventually, when we've gone through the initial heaviness of the grief, the person is then able to figure out how they can do something to honor the memory of that person that they've lost, how they can keep their spirit alive, how they can honor keep their legacy alive, how they can honor their spirit. And that's eventually the point that we want to get to. Okay. But one size does not fit all with any of this. And I think sometimes that's what can be confusing and overwhelming when we're trying to support folks. And it makes people say some kind of dumb things to grieving people, if we're honest, but it comes out of our own confusion about what to say and how to be there. And so what I often tell folks is sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. I'm praying for you. Let me know how I can help. And keep it simple. Less is definitely more when you're dealing with somebody who's grieving. We are almost at our 30-minute mark, and I have a couple more questions to go. So let me make these responses a little shorter. So someone asked, do I do anything other than therapy? Yes. Some of those things that I do are going to be announced a little bit later. So if you are not already, this is a good time for me to put in a plug. If you're following me on Insta, there's a link in the bio to sign up for the mailing list. If you are watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope, just go to the website that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and on the landing page, sign up for the newsletter so that you can stay up to date with some of the other things that I do. I do public speaking. I do training on a variety of topics. And if you go to the website, there's actually Change Academy, which is where I think now there are only 2 courses available. There's some more courses that'll be available the end of next month. I've written books, I've written articles, I do a little bit of everything. And of course, I do this show. So, yeah. Um, hey. So I do a little bit of everything. It's not just this. And I also I do coaching and executive coaching, leadership coaching, and I also train therapists who are getting their license. So I do a lot of things other than therapy. Um, Someone said, what do all the letters behind my name mean? There are a lot of letters. Basically, it means that I'm a licensed professional counselor. So that means that focuses on behavioral health. So, anxiety, depression, things like that. And then, oh, thank you. Um, I just got a shout out on Instagram telling me how awesome I am. Y'all are great for confidence boost tonight. Like y'all are all telling me how great I am. I love it. A girl could get used to this. um so I'm an LPC, that's licensed professional counselor. That's the mental health side. LCADC is a licensed clinical alcohol and drug counselor, which means that I'm also licensed for substance abuse counseling. The ACS means I am an approved clinical supervisor. So that speaks to my work with clinicians who are new to the field. And let's see, LPC, LCADC, ACS, CCTP is, let me think about the letters, certified clinical trauma professional, which is the additional training that I took to be to learn more about trauma and the way it impacts our lives and how to treat it. So those are all of my credentials right now. Now give me about 2 months and I'm going to be adding another credential. I'll have my doctorate in organizational leadership with a concentration in behavioral health. So I will also have an EDD, which is a doctor of education. So yeah, I just got a whole alphabet soup behind my name. Yes, soon to be doctor. Soon to be doctor. Hey. Let's see. I think I've gotten everybody. No, there's one last question on here. And that is, how can you choose a therapist? So what I tell everybody is the best way to choose a therapist is by doing a little bit of research. So you want to look at their profile. There are a ton of different places to find the profile. Therapy for Black Girls .com, therapyforblackmen.org, Theratribe, Theratribe.com. You have psychologytoday.com. There are a ton of places where you can access directories of therapists. Now, I'm a huge advocate for the directories that feature and highlight clinicians of color, primarily because about 90% of, probably a little bit more at this point, but about a good 90% last time I checked of my current practice is with women of color. And so a lot of the work that I do is with that population, and most of the calls that I get, which pains me to have to turn folks away, but most of the folks who are looking for therapy right now in this climate are people of color. So there are directories that feature clinicians of color, so that we can connect with folks who look like us and, may be a little bit more in tune with some of the struggles that we have, particularly around issues of racialized trauma, which is a whole nother show. Go on the YouTube page, Change Talk Awakening Change LLC. We did a whole show about that. Check it out. But I think it's definitely something that's important. And I think that's it. I have finally gotten to the end of the questions that I had. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to do some quick announcements, but put your final questions in the chat and I will do my best to get to them. Like I said, if you're not already signed up for the newsletter, you definitely want to, because there are some huge projects that are coming within the next it's already May almost. Wow. So this month, I'll say. In the month of May, we're going to be launching some really exciting things. And if you are on our mailing list, you will have a coupon and you will have little premier access. We'll say you'll have VIP access to be able to get in on some of the things that we're doing before we open them up to the wider change fam. So www.awakeningchange.org. Go there. If there's something that you'd like to hear discussed, I do this every Thursday night, like I said, Eastern Standard Time. I'm on the East Coast in New Jersey. Every Thursday night, 9 p.m. I come on. I usually talk about something related to either behavioral health or leadership or self-care, which I am super, super passionate about. But if there's a topic that you would like to learn more about and you think that I'm the person to explain it, go to the website, hit me in my DMs, send me what you'd like to hear. Nothing's off topic. And if it's something that I'm not we'll say skilled in, something that I'm not trained in, I will absolutely let you know that as well, because I don't want to use this platform to spread any misinformation. So I think I've gotten everybody's questions and comments. I don't think I have any more. I really appreciate you guys. Usually I try to keep it to about 20 minutes, but when we start doing Q&A, it can go a little bit over 20, 30 minutes is usually my mark. So I really appreciate those of you guys who have hung in here with me for the broadcast. If you happen to catch this on a replay, no problem. Put hashtag replay, comment, ask your questions just as if you were here. And I promise that I will respond to you so that you get the answers that you need. Don't forget the YouTube channel is Change Talk hyphen Awakening Change LLC, and like, share, subscribe. This is episode number 27, I believe. So we've got 26 other episodes that if you haven't been following us, you got to get caught up on. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? So thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I think I will see everybody. Yes, we do have one more show before Mother's Day, but just in case you don't get back, if you're a mom, happy Mother's Day. I want to say to everybody again, thank you so much for joining me on tonight's show. Take care of yourselves and each other. Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. See ya.